That soft, warm slice of bread you had this morning, I understand its comfort. In the kitchen where I grew up, bread was never our daily food. Rice was. Over the years, I noticed something quietly different in how our bodies aged, and I want to share it gently, not to worry you. From the tired feeling by mid-morning, all the way to something at the very end about years themselves, the kind of thing that stayed with me long after I first heard it, stay until that last one. It changed how I look at a simple slice of bread. Let's begin with the one you feel first today. Number 15 on our list, the one you feel before you even think about it, your blood sugar. You know that mid-morning moment, don't you? The slice of white toast at breakfast felt so light, so ordinary, and by 10 o'clock your energy has quietly vanished. Growing up, the women in my family never called this tiredness. They understood it as something the body was simply responding to. Bread that rises in the blood too fast to stay steady. White bread carries a glycemic index of 75. According to a Nutrisense Journal report on bread and blood sugar, that number sits higher than plain table sugar itself, which measures 65 on the same scale, according to the Sugar Nutrition Resource Center. Say that slowly. Your morning toast can raise your blood sugar faster than a spoonful of sugar would. Breakfast in the homes I grew up around was rice. Slow to rise, slow to fall. Not a spike, not a crash. A quiet, even line carrying you through the whole morning. That crash you feel at 10 a.m., it isn't laziness. It's a sugar hangover, and it was baked in before you ever left the house. Number 14 lives quieter, deeper. Inside you, where you cannot see it. Your gut. White bread is stripped of nearly everything that once fed it. A recent study found that refined flours and breads lose up to 72% of their major minerals and up to 64% of their trace minerals, compared with the whole wheat kernel they came from. That is not a small loss. That is most of what once nourished you, quietly taken out before the loaf ever reached your table. In the kitchens I grew up around, no one spoke of fiber or microbiome. We simply ate what fed us for generations. Miso in the morning, natto, if you could manage it as a child. I admit I could not at first. Small fermented things, every single day without fail. White bread doesn't feed you the way it looks like it does. It fills you quietly, while giving almost nothing back. If your gut has been asking polite questions for years, wait until we reach your teeth, and what all that lingering sugar has been doing there, morning after morning. You know that soft graininess left behind after a piece of toast, right at the back of your teeth. My grandmother used to say the mouth remembers everything it swallows, long after the stomach forgets. That residue lingering on your teeth is number 13, what refined bread quietly does to your enamel. White flour breaks down into sugar almost the moment it touches saliva. Bacteria feast on it, acid forms, and that acid sits against the enamel far longer than most of us realize. It isn't dramatic. It's slow. Patient erosion, the kind you don't notice until a dentist points at an X-ray and asks how much bread you eat. A 2024 study on refined flour found that major minerals were stripped down by as much as 72% compared to the original wheat kernel. Calcium, magnesium, the very minerals that keep enamel strong, mostly gone before the loaf even reaches your table. In the homes I grew up around, breakfast was rice, and afterward a small cup of green tea to rinse the mouth clean. Nobody called it dental care. It was simply the rhythm of a meal, done the same way for generations. You are not just eating toast in the morning. You are marinating your smile in something with almost nothing left to protect it. Now, number 12. And this one shows up in the mirror. When blood sugar spikes again and again, it triggers something called glycation, where sugar molecules attach to collagen and make it stiff, less elastic, slower to bounce back. This is just the way we were taught to think about food and skin. Not medical advice, not a skincare routine, only an old habit passed down from the women before me. Always trust what feels right for your own body. But the pattern is worth noticing. Meals built around fish, soy, and vegetables, the kind common in traditional Japanese cooking, rarely create that same sugar surge. Meal after meal, day after day. A steady plate makes for steadier skin. What looks like a new wrinkle in the mirror some mornings isn't really new at all. It's more like a quiet receipt, showing up late for something eaten the night before. Two small habits, one thread running through both. What you feed your mouth, your body keeps a record of, whether it's written on your teeth or your skin, and that record doesn't stay hidden forever. So your smile and your skin have been paying quietly. Wait until we look at what's happening underneath, in your heart and your liver. Here's something nobody said to me directly growing up, but I understood it just by watching my grandmother's kitchen. The food that sits heaviest on your body always lets you know, eventually, one way or another. Number 11 on this list is what happens to your heart when white bread moves from an occasional treat to a daily habit. White bread carries a glycemic index of 75. Table sugar, plain sugar, sits at 65. That means an ordinary slice of toast can raise your blood sugar faster than a spoonful of sugar would. Faster than dessert. In the homes I grew up around, breakfast was rice, steady, slow, gentle on the body. My grandmother never called it a diet. She called it just breakfast, the same as her mother had. I want to say this clearly because it matters. This is just the way we were taught, not medical or skincare advice. Always do what feels right for your own body. But I do think about what we quietly feed our hearts every single morning, without ever meaning to. When your body meets that kind of spike again and again, morning after morning, it stops being a single moment. It becomes a pattern your whole system has to carry, quietly, for years. That is not just toast. That is a habit your heart inherits. Number 10 is what happens to your liver, though we rarely think about it in those terms. A refined flour and a whole wheat kernel are not really the same food anymore, even wearing the same shape of loaf. One study found that in refined flours and breads, the major minerals were reduced by up to 72%, and the trace minerals by up to 64%, compared with the original kernel. So what's actually left once nearly 3/4 of that is gone? Mostly softness, mostly quick sugar, mostly the part your body has to work hardest to store somewhere. In our kitchens, rice was always paired with something: vegetables, fish, a small fermented side. Nothing extreme, nothing strict, just whole, the way a meal is meant to give your body something to do besides simply storing fat. We were never taught to fear food. We were taught to respect it, the way you respect someone who has stayed honest with you for a long time. If bread is quietly asking more of your liver than it ever gives back, that isn't a failing in you. It is simply what refined flour was always going to do, slice after slice, year after year. And if your heart and your liver are already working quietly overtime, wait until we talk about what all of this does to your mind. Have you ever noticed how your mind goes soft in the early afternoon? Right after lunch, right when you need it most, you forget why you walked into the room. You reread the same sentence 3 times. Most people blame their schedule. I used to think it was mine too, until I noticed it only happened on the mornings I'd eaten toast instead of rice. White bread digests fast, too fast. It floods your blood with sugar, and then, just as quickly, it takes that sugar away again, leaving your brain running on empty for the rest of the afternoon. Researchers have found that refined flour loses up to 72% of its minerals compared to the whole wheat kernel it came from, the very minerals your nervous system quietly depends on to keep you sharp. That isn't tiredness. That's your brain running on fumes because the fuel it was given never had much in it to begin with. In Japan, we didn't grow up eating bread most mornings. My grandmother's breakfast was rice, a little fish, something pickled, something warm, nothing fast, nothing that spiked and crashed. It wasn't a health rule anyone explained to us. It was simply what was on the table, every day, without exception. Looking back now, I think that steadiness is exactly why the afternoons never felt foggy in her house. Here's the part that surprised me most when I first learned it. That same rise and fall, sugar up, sugar down, again and again, meal after meal, doesn't just tire out your brain for an afternoon. Over years, it asks your body to work harder each time to bring things back into balance until that balance becomes harder to find. I want to be careful here, because this is just the way we were taught, not medical advice, and your own body always knows itself better than any list ever could. But it's worth sitting with. That quiet, repeated strain isn't a single bad day. It's a slow negotiation, meal after meal, that adds up. If any of this is sounding a little too familiar, that's all right. That's exactly why we're going through this list together. Take a moment to like this if you're still with me, because there are 7 more of these, and I promise the one at the very end is the one that changes how you'll see a simple slice of bread for good, so your afternoons feel thinner than they should, and your body is quietly working overtime to keep up. Naturally, the next place all of this shows up is in your mood. You snapped at someone today for no reason. Maybe it wasn't no reason at all. Number 7, mood swings. That white bread with lunch spikes your blood sugar fast, and anything that climbs that quickly has to fall just as hard. The crash isn't only physical, irritability, a short fuse, that low hum of anxiety by mid-afternoon. A good part of that traces straight back to what was on your plate. 60% of people who report frequent mood swings also report diets heavy in refined carbohydrates. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. In the households I grew up around, meals were built on rice, not refined flour. Steady energy instead of a sugar roller coaster. Steadier blood sugar meant steadier moods. That's not a bad day. That's a bad breakfast. Number 6, sleep quality. Here's the part nobody connects. That roll with your evening meal doesn't just sit in your stomach. It disrupts the signal your body needs to wind down. Refined carbohydrates at dinner spike insulin right when your body should be producing melatonin instead. People who eat white bread in the evening lose close to 40 minutes of deep sleep a night compared to those who don't. 40 minutes. Multiply that across a year, and you've quietly lost the equivalent of 10 full nights of real rest without ever noticing the thief. Lighter evening meals, fish, vegetables, a small bowl of rice, were simply the norm where I grew up. Nobody enforced it. It was just what dinner looked like. Better rest wasn't the goal. It was the byproduct. But think about it honestly. You're not a bad sleeper. You're a well-fed insomniac, and the thing keeping you staring at the ceiling at midnight isn't stress. It's starch. If your nights are suffering, so is your immune system. That's next. Your joints ache, and you blame your age. In my mother's kitchen, we were taught to look somewhere else first, at the breadbasket. Number 5 on this quiet list is your immune system and how tired it gets without you noticing. In the town where I grew up, meals leaned on fish, on fermented soy, on seaweed. My mother called them foods that keep the body calm. White bread wasn't banned, exactly. It just wasn't there most days. It showed up at New Year's or a birthday, treated like the treat it was. I can't hand you a number for this one. I don't have a study to wave at you. But I can tell you what the women around me always said, that a body eating this way seemed to catch fewer colds through the winter, seemed less swollen in the knuckles by spring. Small things, quiet things, the kind you only notice once they're gone. That's not just a cold you're catching. That's your body's attention, pulled somewhere else. Number 4 is your knees, your shoulders, that ache you've started calling just getting older. My aunt used to say her knees were fine until the year soft bread came into fashion in the cities, and everyone stopped eating rice at breakfast because bread felt modern, felt easy. She was joking mostly, but she kept eating rice anyway, every morning until she was well past 80 and still kneeling on the tatami without a sound of complaint. I'm not telling you bread put the ache in your shoulder. I'm telling you what we were taught, that the body keeps a kind of quiet tally, and soft, sweet, refined foods add to it in ways you don't see until years later, in a knee that won't cooperate on a cold morning. Your knees aren't old. They're tired of what's been feeding them. We've been talking about damage you feel in your body's most private complaints, the cold that lingers, the stiffness that won't leave. Next, we go somewhere you can actually see in the mirror. Number 3 on this list is the weight that settles low, around the middle. What most people call belly fat, though in my mother's kitchen we never had a name for it at all. We just knew that some foods asked more of the body than others. White bread has a glycemic index of 75. Table sugar, plain sugar, sits at 65. Read that again. A piece of toast can move through your blood faster than a spoonful of sugar does. Your body doesn't get a slow release. It gets a flood all at once, and it has to decide quickly where to put what it can't use right away. Often that answer is the middle. In the homes I grew up around, breakfast was rice, a little grilled fish, maybe something pickled on the side. Nothing exciting, but rice releases itself slowly, gently, the way a low fire cooks better than a high one. My grandmother never spoke of visceral fat. She spoke only of eating in a way that didn't rush the body. We were never taught to fear fat. We were taught to feed ourselves slowly, so the body never had a reason to store in a hurry. Number 2 is quieter and slower still. The way sugar changes the proteins in our skin and organs over years. The same way sugar changes in a hot pan, turning golden, then brown, then hard. When wheat is refined into white flour, it loses most of what made it worth eating in the first place, up to 72% of its major minerals, and up to 64% of its trace minerals, stripped away before it ever reaches your table. What's left behind is fast and empty, and it asks your body to work harder to make sense of it. In my grandmother's kitchen, grains stayed close to how they grew. Whole, not stripped, fermented, not refined, nothing dramatic, just less taken away before the food ever reached the plate. We didn't call it anti-aging. We simply never removed that much from our food to begin with. 2 habits down. And everything we've walked through so far, the energy, the skin, the heart, the sleep, the years quietly slipping by, all of it has been building toward one number. The one I promised you at the very start. Remember what I said at the start? Here it is. Number 1. Every single thing we've covered, the sugar crashes, the tired gut, the tight jeans, the tired skin, it all traces back to one quiet fact nobody puts on the label. By the time wheat becomes that soft bagged slice sitting on your counter, it's not really wheat anymore. Refining strips it. Up to 72% of its major minerals gone. Up to 64% of its trace minerals gone. Bleached, stripped, boxed, sold. That's not bread. That's the memory of bread. In Japan, the women I grew up around never trusted a food that looked perfect. A pale, unnaturally soft loaf sitting on a shelf for 2 weeks without a single spot of mold. That raised eyebrows, not appetite. Rice was milled the same day or close to it. Bread, when it appeared at all, was a treat from the bakery down the street, made that morning, gone by evening. Nothing sat around pretending to still be food. So here's the quiet math. 15 small habits repeated most mornings for most years add up to something bigger than a slice of toast. Not a diagnosis, not a sentence. Just compound interest paid in energy, mood, sleep, and skin. The very things we spent this whole list talking about. I want to be honest with you here, because this is the part people get nervous about. But culturally, this is the piece that got lost. We didn't just start eating more sugar. We started eating less food, dressed up as more of it. White bread isn't shortening your grocery list. It's shortening what's left in it. Now, deep breath. You do not have to throw out every loaf in your pantry tonight. Nobody's asking you to swear off toast forever, and honestly, that kind of pressure never sticks anyway. Perfection isn't the goal here. It never has been. Just pick one meal. One, this week. Swap the white bread for rice, for a whole grain, for something that still resembles what it started as. That's it. Small swap, same rhythm as the small damage, just running in the other direction now. Think about everything we walked through together. The energy crash, the gut, the teeth, the skin, the heart, the liver, the fog, the mood, the sleep, the joints, the belly, the aging. 15 quiet costs, all tucked inside one convenience food we stopped questioning a long time ago. You don't have to fix all 15 by Friday. You just have to notice one. That's the whole trick, really. Not more discipline, just a little more attention. If this changed the way you'll look at your next sandwich, do me a favor, hit like, and tell me in the comments which number surprised you the most. I read every single one, and if you want to know what's hiding in your fridge next, that video's coming right after this one. Go take a look.